Let's talk the club. One more thing, like, subscribe, and share. Come on, let's talk the club. Woo!
Hey, good evening, everybody. It's Cutler here on the Let's Talk to Cutler broadcast, the Let's Talk to Cutler virtual book club, the Let's Talk to Cutler YouTube channel. And if this is your very first time, let me just tell you a little bit about what this channel is all about. It's about inspiration. It's about motivation. It's about challenging ourselves to show up a little bit better tomorrow than we did today. It's about challenging ourselves to make sure that we showed up better today than we did yesterday. It doesn't mean by any stretch of the imagination that today or yesterday was a failure or a flop. It means that we are being very intentional about seeing what we can do to be better, so we can show up better, so we can show up in victory, we can show up in achievement, we can show up in success, we can show up our best self. So that's what we strive to do every Tuesday and Thursday when I'm up here live for about 1,800 seconds, just trying to give us some nuggets so we can apply to our lives and see what we can do to challenge ourselves. Because one of the things that I've realized, you all, is that becoming better is about challenging ourselves. It's not always a very comfortable thing, but in order to become better, it means sometimes I have to go outside the comfort zone of where I am, the comfort zone of what I know, the comfort zone of how I've always been, to try to get to this place that's called better. So we show up here for about 1,800 seconds and we challenge ourselves. And I want to thank those of you who've been with me for the long haul, those of you who've been with me for a while. And I want to invite you, if this is your first time, if you stop by and you haven't already subscribed, do me a favor, go ahead and subscribe. And once you subscribe, click on the notification bell. It lets you know whenever I've gone live, whenever I've uploaded new content, all of that sort of thing. And as you're coming to the chat, let me know who you are. Say hi to me, say hi to everybody else, because I'd like to acknowledge the first people who jump into the chat room on these Tuesdays and Thursdays. I call the first people in the chat rooms the LTTC VIPs. It's a friendly competition that I just put out there to just try to get people to just jump into the chat room and just get the conversation stirred and the conversation going. We're going to take off from where we were the last time. We talked about not just existing, but making sure that we are living, because I heard a quote that just really pierced my heart over the weekend, and it was by Joel Osteen. He's one of my favorite speakers, one of my favorite ministers, one of my favorite orators. And the comment that he made, I think it was a quote, I think he was quoting somebody else, but the quote that I heard him say is, "It's not that life is so short. It's just that we wait so long to start living." It pierced me because it made me think, how many of us are just existing? And this whole notion of just trying to get by from day to day, that sort of thing. I just want to get married and settle down and buy a house and all of that sort of thing. That's a wonderful life. That's a very fulfilling life for many people, but it may not necessarily be the end all be all, and it may not be the truth for everybody else's life. It doesn't necessarily represent what living looks like for everybody. As I mentioned before, living is very subjective. So when you say I'm living, that's just subjective. It's very subjective from person to person. But I wanted to challenge us. I wanted to spend some conversations and spend some time and have some conversations and share some dialogue about, are we really living? I wanted us to take a look at ourselves and challenge ourselves to see, am I living or am I just existing? Am I being my best self? And one of the things that I offered to help us reach some conclusion, I think I threw out this question that says, listen, if there was no money, if there were no concept of money in the world, here's the question: would I still be doing the same thing with my time that I'm doing now? No concept of money at all in the world. If there were no concept of money, if money were not an issue, would I still be doing the same thing with my time that I'm doing now? I suggested that if the answer is yes, then you're probably living a very fulfilling life. But if the answer is no, maybe not, then it could be that you're just existing. That was the basis of our conversation. So now, against that backdrop, I want to pick up with where we left off the last time. I want to talk about some of the things that we mentioned, and I'll catch us up with where we're going. Mind you, before I do that, I want to invite you all to do a thumbs up on the conversation, because it says to YouTube, I like what the guy's talking about over there, but it also says to me that you're encouraged by the conversation. So let me just see who beat me in the chat room tonight. I'll come right back and I'll continue the conversation in just a moment. But just for the sake of mentioning and acknowledging the LTTC VIPs. Let's see, it looks like our friend Jet was the first one to hop in there, who says hello to everybody. And then Annie Cutler says, she's right on second. She says, let's ride. And then Paula D jumps in and says a hello to everyone. So it's good to see all of you. I enjoy when I see you all in the chat. Can I tell you that I'm just encouraged whenever I see you all? Sometimes I get these emails and messages from you all, and you're telling me how much you are encouraged, but it is mutual. It is equally mutual. I am just as encouraged when I see you all. I am strengthened, I am challenged, I am inspired, and I'm motivated by your presence and by your emails and your comments as well. So thank you all so much for that. I think this is just one of those, for me, one of those empowering moments and one of those enlightening moments that I have. So thank you all for being empowerers, if that is a word, and enlighteners, if that is a word, in my life. So thank you all so much for that. But let's keep on with our conversation about whether or not we are just existing, or if we really are living. One of the things that I wanted to make sure we did in the last conversation was to take a look at some ways that we can recognize whether we are living or if we are just existing. And to make sure that we are not just existing, I challenged us. I said, one of the things we have to do is live beyond where you live. I'm just going to go through these very quickly because I have so many more that I need to catch us up on, or that I need to take off with. Let's see. Got it. So one of the things that I wanted to make sure that we ask ourselves or challenge ourselves to do is live beyond where we live. And I meant that from a very geographical standpoint, from a very geographic standpoint, from a spiritual standpoint, from an emotional standpoint, from a psychological standpoint. Go beyond where you are. Live beyond where you live. In terms of geographic, go to another state, go to another city, go to another country, because the world, your world, is much bigger than where you are, than where you be at any given moment. Don't write off relationships. Don't write off opportunities just because you are restricting yourself to an area. So make sure that you live beyond where you live and live while you're living. All right. Another thing that I reminded us was that ignorance is not bliss. It's not wonderful. It's not a good thing to say, I don't know. But in terms of if you're going to live, don't ever let that be a question where you have not sought an answer. Don't be okay with not knowing. Knowledge is power. So I challenge us to seek what you want to find, to question until you understand, to dig until you find your purpose, to experiment until you find your passion. Reach out for what you want. And again, there are some things that you may not understand, but get an answer. You may not understand it at the moment, but nonetheless, make sure that you strive to find an answer to those questions that you have. Don't be satisfied with not knowing. And then I said, make sure that you say yes to what you want and no to what you don't want. There is power. Many of us, how many of you all will agree that there's power in no? No is a complete sentence. No is a complete thought. No can be sometimes a complete demand and command. There's something liberating about the simple act of just stepping off the conveyor belt, getting off. And I think I said it, just stepping off the ride and say, no, I don't want to do this any longer. Stop. I want to get off. I mentioned, I said this to us before, you don't have to be rude, but at least you need to be honest with yourself and with other people, because you either spend you're either going to spend every hour at the whim of doing other people's or meeting other people's expectations, or you're going to start learning to live how you really want to live. We talked about that before. You don't want to exist for somebody else and not live for yourself. That's a quote. I have to hang on to that. You don't want to exist for somebody else and not live for yourself. So again, that comes from the basic notion of making sure that you say yes to what you want and no to what you don't want. There's power in no, you all. Sometimes we think that we're going to let people down. We think that we're going to disappoint people, and that's okay. You don't want to exist for somebody else and not live for yourself. Another thing that we said that we can do in order to make sure that we are not just existing, but we're really living, is to stop worrying so much about being misunderstood. Like everybody else, I want to be understood. But what I'm not going to do, and I think I said this before, what I'm not going to do is get caught in a state of paralysis, wondering what you're thinking of my goals and my plans and my ideas and my hopes and my dreams. I'm not going to, I think it was Jay Song for our last conversation, who made a comment when I said, I'm not going to be manipulated simply because other people are intimidated by me. And don't you all let that happen to you either. Because some people may be intimidated by your greatness, by your gifts, by your talents, by your skills, what you bring to the table. They are intimidated, but they don't quite know how to handle what you bring to the table. So rather than knowing how to handle what you bring to the table, they may manipulate you so that you don't bring it to the table. All right? So you want to make sure that you handle that and that you don't let people mishandle you. Let people be intimidated all they want, but don't let them manipulate you. So stop worrying about being misunderstood. Oh, I don't want to do that because they might not understand me. You know what? When I do my level best, and when I'm courteous, and when I'm kind, and when I'm nice, and you still don't understand me, guess what? I have to keep moving. And I want to empower us to do that this evening. All right, I'm just reviewing you all, and then I want to get to the last one we talked about. I think the last thing we talked about. Oh, we didn't. I think that was the very last thing we talked about. So I want to pick up with the conversation. So if you know somebody who's struggling with just existing and not living, or if it is you, but you know somebody else, invite them. Tell them to come on, let's talk to Cutler. I mean, for goodness sake, y'all come on, this man is saying some stuff. That's just me talking, but invite them, you all, because this stuff really comes from my heart. It comes from my life. It comes from my experience. And one of the things that I want us to do is to be empowered to live. That's why I think I'm going to hold this conversation for a while. I want us to be empowered to live. I almost went very southern and said, do you hear what I'm saying? I want us to be empowered to live. And so here's something else that I want to challenge us in this vein. To just live and not exist. This is really me when I say this, you all. As long as it's not hurting anybody else, as long as it's not harmful to your body, as long as it may be to some degree healthy, here's what I say: eat what you want to eat and enjoy it. I know half of you all at that point are going to say, nope, I disagree. But I hope you heard what I said. If it's not hurting anybody else, if it's healthy to you, eat what you want to eat and enjoy it. Here's where we all become self-declared medical doctors, because everybody has an opinion about what everybody else should eat. But I'm of the opinion, and this is just my opinion, my humble opinion, if it's healthy, if it's not harming you, eat what you eat and enjoy it. To make a point, I was in a candy store 2 nights ago. I know when you hear the word candy store, you're like, Cutler, you said healthy. How can a candy store be healthy? But hang on, you all. This is just for the sake of making a point. I've traveled around the world, and my mother can tell you, I just don't have a problem finding anything to eat because I have such a broad palate. Finding something to eat is never going to be, or not finding anything to eat it's never going to be my story, because I have such a broad palate. I can try some of anything. But back to bring the story back around, I was in a candy store a couple of nights ago, and I saw this box of see McDina. I figured it would be you. I respectfully disagree. That's right, but that's why I said if it's healthy, So whatever is healthy, if it's good for you, then take it in stride. But so I was in this candy store, and I saw this box of, I think it was let me think, salt and vinegar, like these potato chips, salt and vinegar, crickets, and some other kind of crickets. And I chuckled. There were friends with me who said, haven't you eaten this before? Have you ever tried this? And I said, of course I have. But see, I am the person, I like turtle soup. I like chitlins. I don't call them chitterlings. They're chitlins because I'm from the South. But I like turtle soup. I like chitlins. I like cornbread and pot liquor. I like bread pudding, banana pudding, rice pudding. I like liver and onions. I like pork skins and chicken gizzards. I like all of that kind of stuff. I like all of that. But guess what? Because I've traveled the world, I've also eaten at some of the finest restaurants in London, in Rome, in Paris, and Sydney, Australia. I certainly have. I say to people, and in one of my books I read, I think it's lesson number 27 in the book, we don't always get it right the first time. I say this to people, stop turning your nose up at the food that people eat, because sometimes it is an insult. It's an insult. So we need to be very careful about that. But if you want to live, just try different things. Try different things. And just go on. Eat what you want to eat. If it's healthy, just try it and keep on going. So you all see how broad my palate is. Some of the finest restaurants in Paris on the Champs-Elysees to some dirt roads in the country. That's how broad my palate is. That's how broad my palate is. Jay Song for you say, I can't help it. But be very careful about that, you all, because our nonverbal communication sometimes can be very offensive. It can be very offending. So you have to be careful about that because and this, I want to stop for just a moment because a lot of people ask me, why do you really harp on that? Because your nonverbal communication says a lot. Your nonverbal communication can sometimes come off as very judgmental, like, ugh. And while you may intend for your nonverbal communication to simply express that you don't like something, your nonverbal communication could very well convey that you are being judgmental and looking down on the person who does what you don't do. Just have to be very careful about that. I know we've gotten in the habit of just expressing ourselves, and it means that I don't like that. But it can come across as, why would you eat that? And it's condescending and demeaning sometimes for that. Jason, for you, thank you for at least confirming that you think that I am at least on the right track and saying that. Let's see, Tracy said, my mother used to say that your eyes, it's so true, Tracy. For many of us, our eyes tell it all, but we have to make sure, I'm very aware of what my face and my facial expressions and my nonverbal communication, what they all say. And I want to make sure that it says what I want it to say. What I don't want it to say is that I'm being judgmental of you for doing something different from me. And that's one thing that turning your nose up at the foods that people eat will sometimes convey. So you just have to be very careful about that. All right. That's all I have to say about that. Kind of like Forrest Gump. That's all I have to say about. All right. Let's see. McDonald's. I do have a lot of food allergies. However, after spending 3 weeks in South of France, I enjoy good food and lost weight. Okay, I get you. Yep, I get it. So, but let's get on the track to living and not just existing. On that track to living and not just existing. Here's one of the things again that I would encourage us to do. Stop just going on vacations. A lot of times we get on we hop on a plane, we hop on a bus, we hop on a train, we hop in our car, and we go somewhere. And we get there, and we get to a building, to a hotel, to a house, to an Airbnb, to wherever we're going, and we stay there. We hang out, and we don't venture off beyond where we've gone. I say to you, stop just vacationing and start exploring. Explore the places where you go, the places where you visit. Explore the culture. See how other people live. Broaden your palate to other people's cultures and their ethnicities and their experiences. So don't just vacation, but explore the world around you. Many times, how many of us have gone to a place because there's a pool and there's a beach and there's a resort and we don't go beyond that? But learn how to explore the world. One of my friends, God rest his soul, used to say, there's enough out there that you don't know to start another whole world. There's enough out there that you don't know to start another whole world. So stop just vacationing and start exploring. See the world around you. Experience life from other perspectives. That's one of the things that I would encourage us to do. And then I love to take excursions for the trip. Yeah, absolutely. Take the excursions. Be safe, of course. Be wise, but explore. Explore. And then if you want to just live and not just exist, find joy from doing the things that are not just extrinsically rewarding. A lot of times we do things just for the sake of people nodding and giving us their approval. But there are more things in life worth living for other than getting people's nods of approval. Look for the things where you would nod and give yourself your approval. The things that you want to do, the things that satisfy you, the things that excite you, the things that stir you. Look for the things that you would give yourself your own nod of approval for, and don't look for the things that somebody else would give you a nod of approval. So look for things that are just not extrinsically rewarding, outside rewarding from other people, but look for the things that you want to do. Pursue those things, because the more you do that, The more you do that, the less anxiety you will have about going outside of the box. You'll learn to be more than just who you are in the moment. I'd like to try that, but I'd like to try that. However, I'd like to try that. But the things that you would like to try, go ahead and try them. I'm not telling anybody to do anything unsafe, but I'm saying be daring, be exploring, be adventurous. Do stuff, pursue stuff. A beautiful place, and of course, I'm partial to this place because I was born and raised in the state of North Carolina, and on the coast of North Carolina, we have the Outer Banks. In the Outer Banks, we have one of the largest sand dunes east of the Mississippi. It's called Jockey's Ridge. Jockey's Ridge is a humongous sand dune. We can do so many things there, and I love just running up the sand dune. When I was young, I did this, and I would put myself in the ball and just roll down. That was just one thing. I wanted to do it. And I did it. They have hang gliding over there on Jockey's Ridge off the sand dune. I enjoyed doing that. I really, really did. It was daring, but it was exciting. I thought, let me try it. It wasn't that I was really, really just going up very, very high, but I've done that too. Parasailing. I like doing those sorts of things. Now, of course, if I think if there's a chance that I'm going to kill myself, I'm not going to do it. But learn how to do things that just create butterflies inside. Those things that you want to do, be adventurous. Go and do them. Live your best life. Live your best life. Let's see. I love to take excursions when I travel. Validate yourself. Don't seek validation. Absolutely. MV, I think it's a great thing to take excursions when you travel. MV, I enjoy excursions. Also, it's a great way to explore other cultures. Paula, you're absolutely right. It's a great way to explore other cultures. One of the things I know is this. When you explore other cultures, it's easier for you to become a non-judgmental and an objective person. When you explore other cultures, it's easier for you to see things beyond just your realm, just beyond your sphere of thinking, because now you have looked at the world and seen it from somebody else's vantage point or their perspective. One of the places that I enjoyed traveling was Panama. And not just Panama City, Panama, but I got a chance to go to some of the natural places where the natives live. So it meant that I hopped in a boat and I went to where the natives live. And initially, I was taken aback because it looked like this extra large barn, maybe with 3 levels, and there were multiple families, and there were chickens and goats. And there were, what is the word? There were multi-generations living there. And initially I thought, wow, I don't think I could do this. I don't think I could do it. But something clicked, and I thought about how I grew up in the South. And I remembered how people and relatives coming from the North would just frown on us and say, oh, you're just so country. I don't think I could do this. And I found myself back in a place of saying, you know what? This is how they live, and this is how they appreciate life. My mother and I had the best time. We had such a wonderful time. We morphed into our Southern selves and had such a great time with those people who did not speak our language, so much so until they started saying to my mother, although Mama didn't understand what they were saying, but they were saying to my mother, you look like you're from here. And can I tell you what they did, you all? They started bringing my mother their babies because they wanted her to see, because they were just thinking that they were absolutely convinced that Mom was from Panama. Not so much me because I'm tall and I'm a little browner, but Panamanians are coming in all shades, all hues, all colors. But they were convinced that my mother was from there, or that her ancestors were from there. And they started taking the children, the babies, to her. And because they knew that I was her son, they wanted me to meet them as well. Be adventurous. Yes, mom says there were alligators and monkeys as well. Tracy says, let me say, your mother says, I was scared at first. However, when I took a helicopter ride over the Hoover Dam, it was fun. I know, I absolutely know. And see, I know what you're talking about because I've been there. Broaden your horizons. Many of us are hindered by our experiences. We are shaped by our experiences. We don't like to eat certain things because we've never tried other things. That's all we did. That's all we knew. And I've learned not to turn my nose up at people because they don't try new things. Sometimes the way we live now is the function of our experiences. So I don't condemn people for not having experiences that will allow them to be daring and try other things. I just don't. Some of my friends have very, very rigid eating habits. I don't look down on them. I don't condemn them because that's a part of the experience. So all I'm saying here is just make sure that you look for things that are kind of daring, that are kind of adventurous. If you want to just live, and not just exist, be a little daring. And then here's something that I want to offer. This may be the last thing that I get to this evening because I'm really, 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 really committed to making sure that we are not just existing, but we are living. So I'm walking slowly through these, what I hope are helpful hints. Make an obligation to yourself to start scheduling your you time. I've said this before. One of my friends uses this language that says, Cutler, you know what I've got to do? I've got to check in with myself. This goes hand in hand with that thought process, with that thought pattern. Make an obligation to whom? To you, to yourself, to start scheduling your you time. Just as consistently, just as adamantly, just as emphatically, just as intentionally as you schedule time for everything and everybody else. Make sure that you schedule you time for yourself. Make sure you all set aside time to do nothing, to do anything, to do whatever it is you most want to do. You got to make sure you do that. Do the things that you want to do that you don't otherwise prioritize like you should. Check in with yourself and say, what is it that I want to do? What is it that I don't want to do? What is it that I've considered doing? What is it that I've thought about doing? I'm telling you all, you've got to do that. Be committed to scheduling you time. I think I'm bringing my offering to us this evening as I close out our conversation. I empower us to start prioritizing ourselves. We schedule time for everything else, for everybody else, for everybody's schedule other than ours, you all. But we have got to be intentional. If we're going to live and not just exist, we've got to be intentional about scheduling time to check in with ourselves. And what does that mean? What does it look like? It means I've asked myself, how do you feel? It means I've asked myself, what do you want to do? It means I've asked myself, where are you going tomorrow? It means I've asked myself, what would you like to do that you haven't done? It means I've asked myself all of those questions. How important are you to you? I think I want to ask you all that on a scale of 1 to 10. On a scale of 1 to 10, this is how we're going to close. You all, please be honest with me. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you answer this question? Not how do you want to answer this question, but on a scale of 1 to 10, what does your life look like? What do your habits look like when it comes to treating you like you want to be treated? Tell me this, you all. I'm curious. On a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being poor and 10 being excellent, how committed are you to you? How committed are you to you? How often do you check in with yourself on a schedule of 1 to 10? You all be honest with me because we're going to help ourselves. I'm just trying to help save somebody's life. On a scale of 1 to 10, how are you at checking in with yourself? Y'all start talking to me. You all are talking about traveling and you're seeing the monkeys. Let's see. I used to take myself to movies when my kids were small. I love just sitting there by myself, enjoy the movie. Absolutely. I try and find food that is close to what I normally eat. Yeah. So I see the numbers coming in. You all talk to me. How good are you at checking in with you? How good are you with checking in with you? I see 8s and 9s and 8s and 7s, some days 4 and other days maybe an 8. Juanita, I'm with you. I know it vacillates. I know it goes up and down. A 7. And one of the things that I just want to encourage us as we go off, y'all, and 8, let's see, T color, I need to do better. 6, 7. Let's see, McDonald, I really try to work out every day. Jason for your 8. And what I would encourage us to do, you all, is make sure that the number that you plug into this conversation tonight, based on what you've put in the chat, say to yourself, you know what, I've got to do better if for no one else but me. Whatever number you put in the chat tonight, I challenge you to bring it up by 1 tomorrow. Didn't I say sometimes it's about inspiring us and motivating and challenging us to show up better tomorrow than we did today? So whatever you did to show up for yourself today, go a little further. Go a little further tomorrow and say, you know what, I've got to show up for myself a little better tomorrow than I did today. That's what becoming better is all about. That's what looking for and striving for and hoping for and aiming for is all about. Lala, that's it. Live and not just exist. Every time I come here, it's like, you know what I need to hear without me even saying anything. Thank you for most. Thank you. I thank you all because this helps me as well. I want to thank you all so much for allowing me to share this space wherever you've allowed me to come into your home or into your life or to your experience and share. I appreciate it more than you know. So let's keep doing this, y'all. Let's keep building a community. Let's keep maintaining connectivity as we often do every Tuesday and Thursday, and even during the replays. I got it, Lala. I knew which year you meant. And so let's make sure that we do that. Keep your heads up, keep your hopes up, stay safe, stay sane, and know this is the God's truth from my heart to yours. There is and always will be so much love. Until the next time we talk, do me a favor and tell somebody else, come on and let's talk to Cutler. I'll see you all the next time. Take care. Good night.